We advise if the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
This has forever been our passion, this desire to be a giant. Not to stand on one's shoulders, or to have one for a friend, though these may be fortunate things, but to be one. Giants step over barriers that seem never-ending. They conquer mountains that appear insurmountable. Giants rise above fear, triumph over pain, push themselves, and inspire others to be a giant, to do giant things, to take giant steps, to move the world forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Cunan, and on this show we talk about everything under the sun. And tonight's show is once again about sports, as we believe that sports is integral to nation building and the development of our youth. Now, folks, this show is very timely because in a few weeks we will have the election of the new set of officers of the Philippine Olympic Committee, and this will have a deep impact really on national sports associations, sports programs all over the country, and the general state of Philippine sports. Now, in the last few weeks we've had some illustrious guests on the show, led by, number one, Mr. Goteng Kok, who is the president of the Philippine Amateur Track and Field Association. We've also had Miss Coach Susan Papa of the Philippine Swim League, and of course, good friend, attorney Marilu Mendoza, who is a very deep and very strong sports advocate. Tonight, our series continues, and our guests today are, of course, someone who needs no introduction, Senator Ana Dominic Nikki Coseteng.
Hi, good evening, Buddy, and good evening to all our viewers.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And joining you for the first time on the show is Mr. Emmanuel Joshua E.J. Lorbes, 14-year-old swimmer of the National Swim League. E.J., good evening. Welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, now let's have some introductions. Let's start with Senator Coseteng. I'm sure for those who are just tuning in into our program now about Philippine sports, of course, you've been here several times before. What has Senator Coseteng been doing since she last left public office?
Well, I am now the president and CEO of Diliman Preparatory School, and I'm active in swimming, although I am not in NSA, National Sports Association, but we at Diliman Prep and the Philippine Swimming League has really produced quite a number of champions in the last, 1.5 years that we've been training, and we're very, very proud of them. And we thank you, Buddy, for allowing us a lot of time on your show to reach out to our viewers to inform them about what is happening in Philippine sports, because most people have really no access to information about what's happening.
Absolutely. Now, why swimming, Senator? Why of all the sports, why did you focus on swimming?
Well, it came to me like a blessing from the sky, so to speak. I was asked if our swimmers could join a learn to swim program outside the school. And so I invited the coach to instead come to our school, and I will build a pool and teach the kids how to swim. And he says, oh no, I won't be able to do that because I'm only a learn to swim coach, but I will introduce you to Susan Papa. And Susan Papa can do an entire program from learn to swim to intermediate to elite, and really super competitive program. So when I got to talk to her, I found out about the corruption in sports, about discrimination in sports, punishing kids and not allowing them to swim when they go abroad after spending their own money. I found out about how elections are rigged among some of the NSAs, and how there is abuse of authority in terms of using government funds. So government funds are practically channeled back to the government agency head, not even the government agency. So in the case of Henwino, head of PAGCOR, he gave money to Mark Joseph, head of the Philippine National Sports Association for Swimming, and Mr. Joseph gives back that 38 million pesos to Trace College. And Trace College is owned by Genuino. So we filed a case against him for money laundering and etc., graft and corruption in the Office of the Ombudsman.
Against who? Against Mr. Joseph?
Mr. Joseph and Genuino et al.
Okay, so there's an ongoing
Yes,
case
it's
against
pending
these
now.
gentlemen.
It's pending now in the Office of the Ombudsman. And we hope that in a few weeks' time, it's going to be up for review and sent to the Sandiganbayan.
Okay, now you mentioned that it's been a year and a half since you started the program.
Yes.
It's been that.
2010.
So this is not. This
No,
is
2 years na pala.
2 years.
Na.
But still,
Time flies.
it's a relatively new thing, huh?
Well,
A
for
new program.
Diliman Preparatory
Yeah.
School, yes, new. But we have 17 members in our varsity team. And we have at least consistent gold medalists, at least 9 of them.
Wow. In the 2 years that you started this program.
Yes.
Imagine that, huh?
Yes.
And EJ is a member of the Philippine Swim League. Is
He's
he a
with
product
Philippine
of this
Swim
program
League.
as
Yes,
well?
the Philippine Swim League
Yeah.
program, yes.
Yes. Does he go? EJ, tell us about a little bit about yourself.
I'm a 14-year-old swimmer.
Okay.
I'm a member in the PSL Philippine Swim League. I train under Coach Susan Papa.
Yeah.
And my best stroke in swimming would be butterfly. And most recently, I've been the most outstanding in the national student championship.
Wow. How long have you been into swimming? Did you start, at a very young age?
I've started swimming in the very young age, but that was just learn to swim. Started doing competitive swimming when I was 11, 12, like that.
Are you a student of Diliman Preparatory School as well?
I'm afraid not.
Where do you go to school?
I go to school at Montessori de Manila.
Okay. Now, of all the sports, why swimming? Why not basketball, soccer/football?
Well, I tried some other sports, but they just didn't go well for me.
What kind of fulfillment, EJ, do you get out of being a swimmer?
The experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like the experience of being a swimmer and all the new stuff that I do there. Yeah,
Is it hard to train as a swimmer?
yeah, very hard, but I enjoy the feedback and the other stuff that I get.
Yeah, and I assume this is an everyday thing. You have to wake up very early, hit the pool, and do your laps and all that, no?
Yeah, definitely.
Have any problems juggling time between school and sports?
Sometimes, but you'll get used to it.
Okay, very good. And now, champion swimmer, you said that you are now the you won fairly recently
Yeah.
a title,
The most outstanding
most
swimmer.
outstanding swimmer. Imagine that. Now, Senator Castell, let's go back to you. You've been on the show a couple of times in the past, and I think the last time was maybe early this year, even. Now, since then, what is the state of Philippine swimming and Philippine sports in general? Has there been some sort of improvement?
Well, as far as we're concerned, I think we were in your show after the Arafura Games.
In
right?
Australia?
Yes.
Okay.
That's an example. No? EJ was there. EJ qualified to swim in the finals, but he was not allowed. So he did the qualifying round, he qualified, and he wasn't allowed to swim in the finals. That's just one example of what Mark Joseph's cruelty to kids, resulted in.
Why wasn't he allowed to swim in the finals? If
Because
he
he's not
qualified,
he's not a PASA member, number one. And
not a member of Mark Joseph's
not a member
National
of-
Sports
yes,
Association.
Not a
right?
member. And he's our swimmer. That makes a difference because, as I will illustrate later, a lot of non-PASA swimmers have been deprived of participating even in international competitions as members of the national team.
Even if there are times, as you said, in EJ's
Doesn't
case in
matter.
Arafura, he actually qualified. He
Yes.
could have swum in the finals and
Yes.
got colors of the country.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you something worse that happened in Arafura 4 years before we went. A lady swimmer, a girl, at 13 years old, won the silver medal.
Okay.
She was already wearing the medal. She was given the medal. And it was stripped off her because PASA claimed she did not pay the 400 pesos annual dues, which was due a day after winning the medal.
Unreal.
In other words, she was unpaid
Okay,
for
so just
400 pesos.
a technicality and
Yes,
a silly technicality. of
Yes,
that.
and I brought her this time. We brought her again to Arafura. And
Was
guess
it
what?
the same batch as EJ's?
Yeah, we were
Okay.
5. They were 5 swimmers. And this time, she was the first. Number 1 in the eliminations. that obviously qualifies her because she was the first. And she was still not allowed to swim because she's not a paying PASA member.
Okay, okay. Now this is an outrage.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so Chairman Garcia was our chef de mission, and he could not. He was calling Mark Joseph, I don't know how many dozens and dozens of times. Mark Joseph was not answering his call. He emailed, not answering the email, texted, not answering the texts because he did not want these 5 swimmers to swim.
Wait, okay. Just to get just so I had it clear, okay?
Yes.
So the head of the delegation, and
Was
you said
Chairman
it,
Garcia.
You said it in French, right? Chef
Chef de mission,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So the Chairman Garcia is the head of the Philippine Sports Commission.
Right.
Which is the Philippine government agency or body mandated with overseeing Philippine
With a
sports.
stature of, with a rank of undersecretary.
Okay.
He's
And
undersecretary in fact.
even with you there, I mean, okay, even with Chairman Garcia as part of this delegation,
Yes.
heading this delegation,
Yes.
his influence, his authority
No.
could not, there was
No.
nothing he could do.
No. Well,
Why?
we didn't swim. And he was there, and he told me, you know, Nikki, I've called Mark Joseph. He's not answering my call. Nikki, I texted him. I emailed him. He's not answering my text. He's not answering my call. You know?
No, okay.
And the
The
strangest
PS
part
Yeah.
is, the strangest part of it all was, we had a meeting
Yeah.
in Stone Grill in Green Hills in
Yeah.
front of Unimart. We had a meeting there. Congressman Cojuangco, Mr. Mark Joseph, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Louis Mangahis.
Which Congressman Cojuangco are we talking about?
Pepin Cojuangco.
Who is now the
Well, he has been
President
the
of
president of the
POC.
Philippine Olympic Committee.
Okay.
So we all had a meeting. And Mr. Mark Joseph was there in cold blood. I mean, real blood. Flesh and blood.
both. Well,
Both. And then he said, oh, no problem. If you want to send how many swimmers to Arafura, no problem. It's no problem with me. We'll sign. But at that time, he didn't know who I was sending. He probably thought I was sending a rat pack going there, you know. or
No
something
chance
like
of
that.
winning.
You
No
know,
chance of
something
winning.
like
Yeah,
that.
like something like that, sure.
When he saw the lineup, I think he panicked. So what did he do? Before, he used not to send any swimmers. Previously.
Yeah.
When he saw my lineup of 5 swimmers lang, yun lang ang kaya namin bayaran ng pamasahe.
But they were good.
But, well,
Tipped
I
up.
believed in my swimmers.
yes.
So we sent 5 swimmers. When he saw the lineup, he panicked. He sent the national team, the Philippine national team, members of the national
Yes,
team,
yes.
to swim in a community swimming competition. So, kalaban natin, New Caledonia, Papua New Guinea, some high school here and some high school there, you know. And he sends the Philippine national team, you know, to go. And he did not want to certify these 5 kids. But the Australian embassy gave us
Yes,
5 visas
Yes,
for
yes.
5 swimmers. Because we are complete, our documentation is complete. We have invitation.
Sure, sure.
We were given the notice,
Yes.
certification for participation, etc., etc.
And all this is in the face of that meeting you had at Stone Grill,
Because
attended by Mr. Garcia,
he already
and Pepin
agreed.
Cojuangco and all that. Yes.
They already
with a
agreed that we
verbal
could send
word
5.
of honor.
Yes, so we
Okay. Yes.
spent money. The parents spent money to send their kids there, to go to Australia. You know, and then when they
Sure.
got there, they're not even allowed to swim.
No, but Senator, okay, just so that the public can understand
Yeah.
the dynamics. The PSC is the government agency mandated with
Yes.
developing sports.
Yes.
And all these things we're mentioning, Mark Joseph's association, these are just
The
non-government
National
organizations.
Sports Associations
Yes.
are under the Philippine Olympic Committee.
Which are
Those
all
private.
non-government-
They're private.
they're non-government
Yes,
organizations,
yes.
okay.
So under the POC, the Philippine Olympic Committee,
Yes.
you have different NSAs or National Sports Association,
Yes,
like
yes.
taekwondo,
Yes.
cycling,
Yes.
you know, all these other sports. They fall under the POC.
Yes.
So it is the PSC, the Philippine Sports Commission,
Yes.
that is the conduit for money. So PAGCOR has to commit 5% of the revenues for sports
Okay.
and give that to the PSC, and now the PSC now distributes these resources to the different NSAs.
Yes, yes.
Or the different, not necessarily NSAs. They could be swimming teams, they could be swimming clubs, they could be basketball clubs, they could be any kind of sports club, dancing clubs,
So
whatever.
PSC is the money. PSC,
PSC
is
the
the
government
money.
agency, yes.
The
So
money.
they have the money.
Okay.
So if you're giving PASA, let's say, Philippine Amateur Swimming Association, by the way, to our audience, you know, Mark Joseph has a way of evading and eluding, really slimy like that, no? So he keeps changing the name of PASA. So in the beginning, they were called Philippine Amateur Swimming Association. when the group of Susan Papa and many others bolted the organization and called themselves the Aquatic Sports Association of the Philippines, Mr. Joseph also, hey, we have a new name. We're now the Philippine Aquatic Sports Association. Oh, then we filed a case against him in the Ombudsman,
Change
right?
the name again.
And then the son of Jerry Carpio, the associate editor of sports
Star, Philippine
for the
Star.
Philippine Star,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Filed a case against Mr. Joseph in the Quezon City Court,
Yes.
right?
Because his son was one
Was
of
one of those who
the daughter
were
or
not-
the son? The
son was not allowed to join.
In Arafura.
No, in
In
Malaysia.
Malaysia naman, in Malaysia. Another case.
Another case.
Another
So
case.
he filed a case for child abuse. Oh, now they're called Philippine Swimming Inc. Because I put up a group called Develop Pinoy Swim Inc. And Susan Papa's association is known as Philippine Swimming League.
Yes, yes.
So para magulo yung isip ng tao,
Para pag sabing may case yung PASA o yung may case
hindi
yung
kami
ASAP,
yun.
hindi kami yun.
Oh, hindi kami
Kasi
yun.
binago na yung
Oh,
pangalan.
kasi iba na yung pangalan namin eh, di ba?
Clever, huh? You have to say, very clever.
It's Joseph of the coat of many colors. Oh, Joseph of the many coats of many colors.
Okay. No, but okay, going back to PSC and okay, PSC's chairman is Richie Garcia and NSA,
Yes.
the NSA of swimming is Mark Joseph, the president.
The president.
But you know what's so curious for me is that an NSA or an NGO can
Yes.
actually have the temerity, can
Yes,
have the
exactly.
influence to actually just ignore the PSC chairman altogether. I mean, the PSC chairman, which is the money,
Yes.
calling you up, telling
Exactly.
you, hey, we have this situation, and to be ignored completely. I mean, that's
Yes,
how do
exactly.
you explain that to me?
That's
I mean,
why
it's,
I told Mr. Garcia, I said, you know,
he's the
Chairman.
money, very important.
Yes.
Sure.
I said, you know, Chairman Richie, you know, sinampal na kayo ng kaliwat kanan.
Yes.
30 beses.
How is
no?
Mark Joseph able to do this?
Exactly. That's what I don't know. Now, what we want to happen, you know, all that we're doing is really part of our advocacy, no? To seek justice for the swimmers and the coaches, and to restore the glory of Philippine swimming.
Sure, sure.
Remember that from 1954, I have it here, from 1954 to 1982, the Philippines won 82 medals.
Are we talking about SEA Games, Asian
No,
Games,
no.
or
Philippine Asian, the Asian
Asian
Games.
Games? Okay.
The SEA Games is the lowest,
Yes,
the
it's-
lowest
it's-
of all tournaments, international tournaments, because
It's
it
just
only
regional.
involves,
Yes.
what, 9, 10 countries, right? So in the Asian Games, the Philippines has won 82 medals from 1954 to 1982.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Now, Mark Joseph incorporated PASA, Philippine,
Amateur Swimming Association.
in 1986.
Okay.
Right? Okay. From 86 to now, to this day,
How many?
they have won 2 bronze medals in 1998. That's it. 0, 0, 0. Lahat yan, you know?
Yeah.
Nandito yung statistics. No? Puro
Senator.
eggs. Real eggs. Easter eggs. Oh, diba?
Easter eggs.
Joseph eggs.
Sen-
Yan, lahat yan, ha? Magmula nung 1986. Ayan, maliwanag ko.
It's like the Easter bunny.
1986 from 00002. But remember, the two bronze medals that were won
Yes.
were won by Ryan Papa. And Ryan Papa was trained in America. His parents and his
So he
family.
wasn't really
He's not
a product
of Mark
of
Joseph,
PASA.
Of
Okay.
PASA, diba?
Let's go to the case of EJ. So in EJ's case, when did it happen that he swam in Australia but was not allowed to swim in the finals?
Last year.
Last year only. And
2011.
you guys were together in the same
Yes, I was
delegation.
there, yes.
Okay, I mean, like what happened then? Did Mark Joseph again stop?
He didn't care. I mean, in Australia, you mean?
Yeah.
No, he was stopped in Australia. Now,
Yeah.
after that, almost every tournament, because we have about 6 international competitions that we allow our swimmers to join every year.
PSL.
The PSL,
Okay.
yes. And so we have like 20, sometimes 30 swimmers
Okay.
that participate in these competitions.
Paid for by private funds, no PSC
Their own
funds.
parents.
Parents, imagine that.
Yeah, their own parents, or sometimes we help. The parents collectively help. We have sponsors. We have friends who believe in what we're doing,
Yeah.
and they make sure that the kids are able to go.
Yeah.
No? So EJ, the latest one that we came from, the group of EJ, I think we were 19 swimmers. Were we 19?
Yeah.
19 swimmers in Fujian province.
Yeah,
So I was also there.
Okay.
And we won 32 medals, 10 of which were gold. And then Gian Berino, one of the swimmers that went to Fujian, proceeded to Shanghai.
Yeah.
We only could afford to send one.
Sure.
So
sure.
we sent one. Gian Berino won 1 gold medal and 1 bronze medal in Shanghai. So we're able to manage, even if the government does not pay for their fare or does not pay for their expenses abroad,
Yes.
we're still able to send them.
Now, EJ, how did it feel? I mean, like, how did you feel when you qualified for the finals and you were not allowed to swim? As an athlete, as a I'm sure very frustrating.
Yeah, it's really terrible that after training hard and preparing for the event, they just,
Giving your all, giving 200% of your time, your effort,
yeah.
and they just pull the rug under you.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. No, I mean, tragic. Now, okay, I want to ask you a question. I mean, clearly, the excuse given for them not allowing you to swim was you weren't a PASA member. Now, my question for you is, being a young swimmer, young student, someone who's up and coming in the sport, why don't you just join PASA and just get it over with? If that's the problem, then why fight the problem? Just join PASA. Join Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, but I might not have the same experience as I'm already having right now in PSL. I want to try to improve and show them that I can still do it even.
No, but I mean, what do you mean you might not have the same experience? You don't see yourself having, let's say, the same kind of training in PASA?
Yeah, I might not, because I've already experienced some swimmers that was one of my teammates already, and they transferred to PASA.
Yeah.
And I don't see them like improve that much as they were when they were with us. So I'm afraid that I might get that same treatment.
Wow. Now,
Quite a number,
Senator,
quite a
I mean, look
number.
at that. Coming from his own words, I mean,
Yes.
so that's also another thing I can understand. How can a national sports association have what seems to be a lackluster training program? I
Well,
mean,
there is no training program, so to speak of, in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, the swimmers are already good. By the time they get to PASA, they've already been trained by their respective coaches from many parts of the country. They're taken in by PASA, and who is going to coach them when they get to PASA? They have a coach that has been the coach for I don't know how many years, decades maybe, and it's already here na nga, 0 medals ka now. Right now, in the SEA Games, we are already 0 gold medals for the first time in Philippine history. We are 0 medals, and we are a country of 100 million people.
imagine that, huh?
Compared to
Yes,
Singapore and Thailand,
yes,
we have 5 times the population of Thailand.
Yes.
Right? And compared to other countries like Malaysia,
Even Brunei, I think, has
well,
probably
look
has
at
more
Brunei.
medals.
I'm happy about Brunei, actually. Because we're second to Brunei sa Kakulelat. Eh.
Yeah.
So we're second to the Kulelat to Brunei.
Pero ilan lang sila?
Yeah, but
Di ba?
Brunei sent 2 swimmers.
Okay.
And they both have bronze medals. Di ba? I mean, you know how ridiculous.
And what's the
But-
population
no,
of
no, no,
Brunei?
But remember that in 2003, right? That's what, 9 years ago?
Yes.
The Philippines was number 1 in the entire Southeast Asia in 2003.
It's just that not
So,
even 10 years ago.
After Mark Joseph took over at the helm of PASA,
When did he take over PASA?
2005, I think, is it?
Okay.
Like, if I remember right, it's 2005.
So clearly, I mean, there seems to be some sort of connection between this man, the head of PASA,
Well,
and
let's give you an example. No?
The
Mr.
rotten
Joseph
performance.
asked PAGCOR for 34 million, supposedly to train athletes, Filipino swimmers. Swimmers lang yan, 34 million. So PAGCOR gave Joseph 34 million pesos. As I told you, Joseph gave Trace College 38 million pesos. Pa nga, nadagdagan pa ng 4. Now, the Beijing Olympics in 2008 was not even over. And the money was gone. Okay? So, when 2012 came, no Filipino swimmer made it to the Olympic qualifying time.
Yes.
No swimmer. In other words, they could have sent you, Buddy Kunanan, and me, Nikki Coseteng, ganun din ang kalabasan eh. Diba? So,
Yes.
wala man lang tryouts, wala man lang anything.
We'll get to that soon, but we have to pause for a break. But before we go, I want to have a last word from EJ. EJ, what are your plans for the future?
My plans?
Yes.
Guess it's trying to eye for the next big events in swimming, like the upcoming Youth Olympics,
Okay.
and just improving my times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, but what if you can't join PASA? I mean, there are some events that you will not be able to compete in. How do you feel about that?
I just hope it doesn't happen again.
Hopefully some kind of change will happen to what
Yeah.
we're doing.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, guys, stick around and don't go away because a few moments more of the problems of Philippine sports and Philippines Uncut returns.
Things. To take giant steps. To move the world forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunan, and on this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And tonight's show is once again about sports, as we believe that sports is integral to nation building and the development of our youth. Now, folks, this show is very timely because in a few weeks, we will have the election of the new set of officers of the Philippine Olympic Committee, and this will have a deep impact, really, on national sports associations, sports programs all over the country, and the general state of Philippine sports. Now, in the last few weeks, we've had some illustrious guests on the show, led by, number one, Mr. Goteng Kok, who is the president of the Philippine Amateur Track and Field Association. We've also had Ms. Coach Susan Papa of the Philippine Swim League, and of course, good friend, attorney Marilu Mendoza, who is a very deep and very strong sports advocate. Tonight, our series continues, and our guests today are, of course, someone who needs no introduction, Senator Ana Dominic Nikki Coseteng.
Hi, good evening, Buddy, and good evening to all our viewers.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And joining you for the first time on the show is Mr. Emmanuel Joshua E.J. Lorbes, 14-year-old swimmer of the National Swim League. E.J., good evening. Welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, now let's have some introductions. Let's start with Senator Coseteng. I'm sure for those who are just tuning in into our program now about Philippine sports, of course, you've been here several times before. What has Senator Coseteng been doing since she last left public office?
Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
To be a giant. This has forever been our passion. This desire to be a giant. Not to stand on one's shoulders, or to have one for a friend, though these may be fortunate things, but to be one. Giants step over barriers that seem never-ending. They conquer mountains that appear insurmountable. Giants rise above fear, triumph over pain, push themselves, and inspire others to be a giant, to do giant.
Well, I am now the president and CEO of Diliman Preparatory School, and I'm active in swimming, although I am not in NSA, National Sports Association, but we at Diliman Prep and the Philippine Swimming League has really produced quite a number of champions in the last, 1.5 years that we've been training, and we're very, very proud of them. And we thank you, Buddy, for allowing us a lot of time on your show to reach out to our viewers to inform them about what is happening in Philippine sports, because most people have really no access to information about what's happening.
Absolutely. Now, why swimming, Senator? Why of all the sports, why did you focus on swimming?
Well, it came to me like a blessing from